Hi there, what I'm going to show you today is how to create a parallax image out of a flat two-dimensional picture that you've taken. And the picture I'm using here today is an image that I gathered through Creative Commons, openly licensed, so free to use. You can find the split Photoshop file of the different layers and the Blender file on my blog at Material Physics. It's matphy.com under the blog post Parallax Imagery. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you a couple quick tips and tricks on how to use these programs. Blender's free open source software, so you can download that on your own. But if you don't have Photoshop, you can use GIMP, and there's plenty of great tutorials. One being one from Pat David, who showed how to do a lot of this stuff himself. So I'm going to begin here by taking my background, and I'm going to create a duplicate layer. I'm going to turn off all these other layers here. And if I enter a quick mask mode by hitting Q and select my brush, I want the default color, so I'm going to hit D. I'm going to highlight more than I need here. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow me to go back and kind of refine it later if I want to, by zooming in and then switching the colors from black to white, as done here. Take my brush here and I can kind of erase some of the edges here. So this is a quick way to edit a mask. I'm not going to go in a whole lot of detail here. I'm going to zoom back out, switch out of my quick mask mode, and select my lasso tool using L. And then I'll select the inverse, and then right click again, and I'm going to say layer via cut. That'll actually split the two layers. You see here that if I turn off that layer, the girl is gone. So I'm going to highlight the back layer using my magic wand tool. I'm going to highlight the whole area she was in. Go to Edit, Fill, and then I'm going to use Content Aware to fill that up. And what it'll do is it'll kind of fill in the background. It's important that you fill in the space there. You can use the content patching tools or the healing brushes to fix that, but you'll need to do not an amazing job, but a decent job so that it's not noticeable when you're going through the layers. So Photoshop does a wonderful job. This is not my best job, but it works for what we're going to do. I have the layers split. If you'd like to just skip this step, download the image through my blog, or the sets of layers and their images, and then you can go through and do that. So I took this, and then I also, to create the other layers, I zoomed in here, highlighted the background, and then I held Shift with my magic wand tool and selected a couple of these bits of snow, as you can see here. And then to better see those, what I did is I created a background layer, or I need to highlight these on the background layer. I'm going to copy using Command C, I'm on a Mac, and then Command V, and I'm going to turn that layer off, and then I put a black layer so I can see what I'm doing here. And then I would go to Edit, Transform, and scale these to much larger sizes. Hit Enter, and then I would apply a lens blur under Filters, Blur, Lens Blur. And that would blur them to make it look realistic, and you can play around with those settings on your own. So I'm going to actually skip through a lot of these pieces here. I'm going to throw those old layers away. Turn on my layers. Here's the background layer, here's the girl, and then two layers of snow, as you can see. So you save these as their own images, and then you'll go to Blender. And this is what Blender looks like when you start it up. There's a couple things you'll have to do to manipulate the Blender setup if you're using Mac or any laptop that doesn't have a numpad. So what I'm going to, and I'll show you that here in a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, then I'll go to User Preferences. And here under Input, you'll click on Emulate Numpad. That'll let you use some of these shortcuts that Blender relies on for the numpad. I'll show you those in a minute. And then on the add-ons, you'll also type in images, not layers, images, and you'll get this plugin here that says Import, Export, Import Images as Planes. And you'll just check that box on the right-hand side, and then you should be able to do that. So you'll close it. I'm going to get rid of a couple things. I'm going to right-click on this box and hit X and select Delete. And then I'm going to right-click on my camera. Go here on the right hand side, I'll choose this little orange box, and I'm going to move the camera back to its original position. So 0, 0, and then on the Z axis going to set it to 5. Change all my rotations to 0. So it's pointing straight down, and I can click on the screen and hit 0 on the numpad, or if you've emulated the numpad, just hit 0. And I'll show you where you're at on the screen. I'm going to hit 0 to go back out of that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to import my images. So File, Import, Images as Planes. Mine are on my desktop in the Parallax project, and I save them in my Photoshop file. And I have 4 layers here, so I'm going to select all of them. And then I also need to do a couple things before I hit Import Images as Planes on the top right-hand side. I'm going to go on the bottom left-hand side, and I'm going to uncheck Align Planes. I'm going to check Use Alpha, check Shadeless, and click Z Transparency. And then I'm going to hit Import Images as Planes. So what that does here, it's not very exciting yet, but this is pretty easy to continue from here. I'm going to show the images. So on this timeline on the bottom for my frames, I'm going to select this little clear sphere, and I'm going to click Texture. That'll actually show the images. So if I hit 0 to go to my camera mode again, you'll see that I'm looking down on these, and they're all stacked on top of each other, which isn't terribly exciting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit 0 again, and I'm actually going to split these into different planes. Some people do this looking through the camera view, which is totally fine, but I want to do this actually separately, so I can see the layers split. So I'm going to take my back layer, and I'm going to leave it right where it is. And then I'm going to take the snow front layer. I'm going to hit G, then Z to move it along the Z-axis, and if I move my mouse up, you'll see it brings it forward, that plane forward, and then I'm going to left click. Then I'm going to take the ice skates top, which is the girl. I'm going to hit G again, Z, and move her forward again. And the amount of depth you see in this image is based off of how far these planes are spaced apart. Then I'm going to take the mid-level of snow, hit G, Z. The mouse, interestingly, has to be on this 3D view to actually hit these shortcuts. I'm going to move that snow forward a little bit right behind the girl and left click. Now I'm going to select my camera by right-clicking on it, hit 0 again, and you see that these images are kind of all there. So I'm going to click on the back image, and I'm going to hit G, then S to scale it, and I'm going to just keep dragging until it fills the whole camera view, which is in this dotted region, like that. Great, check. Now I need to make sure the girl fits in that kind of area that I have, so I'm going to choose my ice skates top layer. If I hit just G, I can move the layer around, and then left click to position it, hit S to scale it, and just move my mouse around. This takes a little bit of time to get there, but simple enough, right? Got her where I want. And I'm going to take the snow in the front, and I'm going to hit G. I want it a little bit bigger, so I'm going to scale it up here, left click. Move it around again with G wherever I want it to be. I'm going to move it a little high because I want the snow to actually be falling. And then I'm going to take this snow in the middle and do the same thing. Blow it up a little bit. You don't have to make it as big. The snow is transparent. It's a transparent layer with just the white dots, so it really doesn't matter where it is in this. So now that I have my layers set up here, now I just need to animate them. And I'm not going to move the layer with the girl or the background. I'm just going to move the snow layers and animate them down, and I'm going to move the camera forward through this. So let's start with the snow layers. So I'm going to take the snow in the front, and I'm going to move my mouse over the 3D view, and I'm going to hit I to set a keyframe. I'm going to hit location. What that's going to do is, you see on this bottom bar here, you see you're starting at keyframe 1, ending at frame 250, sorry, just frames. I set it at 1. Now I need to set where it's going to be at the end. So I click this to the last frame, and I'm going to actually just move my snow downwards, click, and then I'm going to hit I again and set location. And all that does is set where it needs to start and where it ends, and then Blender will do the rest in animating it. So I go back to the first frame, I'm going to choose the snow in the middle again, hit I, choose the location, go to the last frame, and move it down. hit I again to set the location. Now I've set it so that the snow and just the snow will move. Now I need to animate the camera. So I click here on camera. You can right click the frame around the dashed frame for the camera, or you can click on the objects here on the right hand side in the scene. I'm going to click the camera, and I'm going to hit I again to set its starting location, and then now I needed to set its final location. So I go to the end of the frames, and to do this I'm going to hit G and then Z to move it along the x-axis. I'm going to actually slide my mouse forward to set the spot, and then we hit G again to move this to kind of recenter it. So it's going to kind of move diagonally to the top right corner of the image. And then I'm going to hit I and set the location. Now, if I do this, if I play this, you'll see here what's happening is the snow is falling downwards and you're actually moving through this three-dimensional image that you created out of flat planes. To do this now, to the final touch, you need to click on the little camera icon here to go to the render. And you just go through the render presets. There's a couple really great ones. What I did here is I went to the bottom and selected PNG and changed it to H.264. And then I'm going to change the encoding as well to an MPEG-4. Leave everything the same, and you can change the frame rate, the resolution, some great presets. Do HD 1080p if you want. And then to actual render it, you'll go to render animation, and it'll go through and do the rest of that. So that's how you create a parallax image. I encourage you to take some time, sit down, and try it out for yourself. See what you can come up with.